Local news and the best talk. News Talk KVNU, 610 AM and 102.1 FM.
KVNU News Time is 5:05. I'm Bill Walter with this news update brought to you by Cache Valley Pharmacy. A 44-year-old Newton man has been sentenced to jail for using sticks to spank 5 young children and tying at least one to a chair as a form of punishment. Charles A. Olson was originally arrested in February after telling Cache County Sheriff's deputies he knew what he had done was wrong. Court records show Olson was sentenced in First District Court Monday morning. He previously accepted a plea deal, pleading guilty to aggravated assault, amended to a third-degree felony, and 4 counts of child abuse, amended to a Class A misdemeanor. Judge Brandon Maynard ordered Olson to serve 120 days in jail, followed by probation, giving credit for 11 days previously served. Earlier this year, the victims, ages 5 through 16 years old, told Cache County Sheriff's deputies how they were disciplined by Olson when they broke rules or when he became angry. He would use spanking sticks made of wood, metal, or wire. Some of the sticks had names like Old Bamboo, White Lightning, Egg Beater, and Sold Truth. One of the young girls told investigators that Olson had tied her to a bar stool in the garage with paracord that he would use to make whips. She said he tied her hands to the bottom of the stool on the one side and her feet to the bottom on the other side, forcing her to bend over the stool, and that he did this to keep her still. Another child said if she did not bend over correctly, that Olson would hit her on the back or legs. She stated that they could receive up to 50 spankings at one time. During Monday's sentencing, Olson was ordered to report to the jail by Friday and was granted work release. KVNU News Time is 5:07. KVNU weather tonight, mostly clear. Low in the low 40s, sunny and warmer tomorrow, and on Thursday, upper 70s for the high. It is 69 right now at KVNU. Cache Valley Pharmacy has been doing pharmacy better than anyone else in the valley, with free delivery valley-wide for the last 19 years. Cache Valley Pharmacy, the pharmacy delivery experts. Order your prescription online at cachevalleypharmacy.com.
This is Phil with Cache Valley Pharmacy. We love being in Cache Valley and want to thank you for your support. Cache Valley Pharmacy features the best prices in the valley, and as always, free delivery. If you're in the market for prescriptions, check first with Cache Valley Pharmacy for the absolute best prices, especially on compounds and insulin. We've been doing pharmacy better than anyone else in the valley with free delivery valley-wide for the last 19 years. Cache Valley Pharmacy, the pharmacy delivery experts. Order your prescriptions online at cachevalleypharmacy.com.
KVNU News Time is 5:08. Word is that firefighters are on the scene of a small grass fire along US 91 north of Crow Mountain. Traffic is being partially blocked while crews put out the fire. No injuries or building damage has been reported from that grass fire in the northern part of Cache County. And President Biden's $150 billion clean energy plan aims to rid almost half the power grid of carbon-based fuels by 2035, but conservation groups say his proposal will likely see resistance from Utah and other energy-producing states. The plan, which is before the U.S. House Energy and Commerce Committee, would reduce the use of coal and natural gas to cut carbon emissions and develop a green energy economy. Scott Williams with environmental watchdog Heal Utah says losing Utah jobs in coal and gas production could be a major barrier to implementing the plan's changes.
States where coal mining and oil and gas exploration is a significant part of the economy, like Utah and Wyoming, there's much less of an appetite to impose regulatory requirements on the power company.
Biden's Build Back Better plan also includes funding electric grid improvements, decarbonizing federal buildings and vehicle fleets, providing rebates for energy-efficient homes and appliances, and subsidizing solar projects in low-income communities. KVNU News Time is 5:09. For more details on these and other stories, visit CacheValleyDaily.com.
Attention homeowners, you may have noticed the ground shift after your foundation has been poured, causing your house to sink or settle. Protect your investment from issues before they happen. Polylift Concrete Raising and Piering will stabilize, lift, and eliminate further settling by using Magnum Piering products to save you big money down the road. Polylift Concrete Raising and Piering are the foundation lifting experts. Visit poly-lift.com to schedule your free assessment or call or text 435-999-9309. Polylift is locally owned and operated.
He's been good to you over the years. He let you build the kids a fort high off the ground. He watched over them for hours as they swung back and forth on that old tire. In the fall, he provided hours of fun letting your kids jump in giant leaf piles. Yeah, he's been a good old tree. Return the favor and keep them healthy and strong.
Take care of your trees the right way. Call Hull Tree Care. Their certified arborists and cleanup crew are the best around. 760-6587. When you call, ask about the radio discount. Hull Tree Care. 760-6587.
My name is John Brenchley. Last year, my father, Lynn, passed away. Our family misses him tremendously. From the first phone call we made to White Pine Funeral Services until he was laid to rest, White Pine helped us every step of the way. The staff was there to guide us through the entire process. They were kind, gracious, and their facilities are amazing. White Pine helped to make the difficult situation of losing my dad into a positive experience where we could remember him and celebrate his life.
White Pine Funeral Services, here when you need us most.
Feels like Tuesday.
Tuesday has no feel.
Up now, we gotta let it shout about. Making
Welcome back to
real
KVN News for the people.
place.
I'm Jason Williams. It is hour 2 of today's show, Tuesday, September 21st. Thank you for tuning in to the show today, and you are not going to be sorry you did. And we're starting things off this hour with a very special guest as sort of a follow-up interview after we were hit by many questions from local business owners to individuals curious about a program created here in Utah and kind of being overseen and promoted by the Lieutenant Governor herself. Lieutenant Governor Deidre Henderson joined us a few months ago on the show to talk about what she calls the Returnship Program. And this is a back-to-work program running through various different players involved here in Utah, Department of Workforce Services, Governor's Office of Economic Opportunity, and more. And the idea is to put people who have maybe been out of the workforce for a specific reason but don't want to stay out back to work. And they're encouraging businesses to get involved in this as well. If you have a returnship that you could offer yourself that would put people back to work, they have some easy ways for you to get involved. We had a lot of listeners and business owners here in northern Utah email us, text us, and even call after that interview back in June saying, how do we get involved? What is the first step? Where should we go? And so we thought it would be great to actually answer some of those questions. And our guest joining us now from the Governor's Office of Economic Opportunity, we have Deputy Director Ben Hart. And Ben, appreciate taking some time for KVNU today. This is a pretty exciting program and innovative as well. I was surprised to learn that this doesn't happen in every state.
No, Jason, that's a great lead-in, and I appreciate the opportunity to be with you and your listeners today. Not only does this not happen in every state, but Utah is the first. And so the program now has an official title, Return Utah, and it's set up with various state agencies, you said that very well, with the purpose of really helping those who've been out of the labor force find a good reentry point. So you're not just working, an entry level, whatever the job may be, but you can really put your skills to good use. And so the state of Utah is definitely trying to be the example here. Our fantastic Lieutenant Governor Henderson, has been a great advocate for this program, but it's really unique in that the state is actually taking the lead role on helping in this effort. And we hope there's a lot of businesses that are interested and a lot of businesses that want to follow that example. But ultimately, we've got a workforce shortage. We've got so many people who are looking to reenter the workforce. Why not couple those two things together and help both our businesses and those looking to get back into the workforce?
I think of, Ben, when I think of this program and the idea of returning to the workforce after a extended stay out, I think of many people I know who maybe left the workforce to raise a child. Even one individual I know right now who left the workforce to care for an aging parent ended up being out of the workforce for about 15 years. And she said to me recently, I don't have the skills now to be employed. I've been out of the workforce so long. This program is meant to actually challenge that whole idea, right? To say, no, you can actually very easily get back in.
Yeah, Jason, you're exactly right. And it's supposed to be multi-pronged and multi-tracked. So if someone feels like, hey, I just want to jump back in, obviously there's a lot of good open job opportunities right now. There's also a lot of opportunities with these return-type programs, Return Utah or other. But there's also great retraining. If you feel like, hey, I want to just brush up on some of my skills, I want to develop a new skill. So whatever you're interested in, I would direct anyone who's interested to inutah.org, inutah.org. And so if you're a business that's interested in getting more information, if you're interested in participating as a returnee in the States program, or you're interested in just brushing up on some of your skills or getting a new skill, we have a whole lot of programs, brand new special programs designed specifically for those who've been out of the labor force and are interested in getting back into the labor force at this point. And so programs at the University of Utah, some at some technical colleges. I'm trying to think what's up north in the Logan area, but I know we've got programs all over the state that are just brand new, that are coming online and that have received funding specifically to help those who are just wanting to brush up on their skills. And so I would say whatever you're interested in, head over to inutah.org. I think it's a really good resource page for those who are interested in this topic from whatever vantage point. And I would just say for businesses in particular, we need more businesses involved, participating and offering these types of programs. And so we hope that anyone who's listening, any businesses who are listening, will take the initiative to say, I want to welcome returnees. I want to work with those who may just, had taken some time out from the labor force and are now looking to get back in. And so businesses in particular, we always need more businesses engaged offering these types of positions. And so whatever your vantage point, that website is a really good place to better understand what you can do and how you can be engaged.
Sure. And the scenarios in which this would be useful for a person are endless. For listeners, this program is designed specifically for those who have adults who have been out of the workforce for more than 2 years, looking to get back in. And Ben, you mentioned this. I know here in Cache Valley specifically, Bridgeland Tech and Utah State University both involved in this. You guys went out as this program was being sent out. You went out and made partnerships with these education institutions to sort of fast track this, right? We're not talking about a situation where to get back in, a person needs to go complete a 4 or 5 year bachelor's degree program, right?
No, you're exactly correct. And right now we've got more flexible training options than any time probably in the history of the state. We've really been working with educational institutions, and they've done an awesome job responding in terms of developing programs that are really unique and custom-made for each individual applicant. And so whether you're looking, at a certificate program offered through the technical college, or you're working maybe perhaps through outreach or online at Utah State University, there are a lot of good options. And I'll put a plug in particularly for Utah State University and their online program. My wife, who's been out of the labor force for a number of years, was able to get her 4-year degree. That was what she had chosen to do, but she was able to do that remotely here from our home in Layton, occasionally having to be on site. But the flexibility offered within these programs, both at the technical college and the university level, is really, really amazing. And you're right. The state of Utah has put about $25 million over the past 18 months into creating more of these programs. And so there's no better time. There's been no better time than right now to look at potentially going back, seeing what your interests are, everything from the whole 4-year degree to, are you interested in machining even, or nursing, or any of the tech degree or tech certificates that are offered. I can tell you right now, no matter where you're at in the state, we've got demand for all of those types of positions. The unemployment rate, I think we're at our lowest level ever, if not tied with our lowest level ever. And so now's a wonderful time to be looking at re-entering the labor force.
And that website that Ben mentioned, inutah.org, is an amazing resource. In fact, just looking over some of the applications that are already available there at the website, everything from returnships, as the Lieutenant Governor called them, in diesel technology, the CDL licenses, electrical apprenticeship, electrical technicians. That's a high-paying job. Very technical jobs from programming. And also learning, get this, Northern Utah Geospatial Technology Education Program. Yes, I mean, this is stuff that will fast-track you towards, often, if it's your preference, a very technical career, very specialized career, but there are also very general things there from project management and more already on offer. If you're an individual, check it out, inutah.org. And Ben, one of the most frequent questions we got from business owners saying, what qualifies? If I have something I think might fall into this returnship category, are there metrics I have to meet? How many? If I'm only looking for one person, does that keep me out of the running? How does that work?
No, it's a very, very good question, and this is probably the most common question we get from businesses is, do I need to plug into something specific? And the reality is the Return Utah program is set up a very specific way, but a lot of companies will offer programs. Goldman Sachs has the Returnship Program. Northrop Grumman has iReturn. They're all kind of structured a little bit differently, honestly, in terms of what they're offering. So even if you're a smaller shop, 25, 50 people, or, somewhere in that range, no, you can still participate. You can still offer a position in terms of those who are returning to the labor force. You don't need to feel obligated to have some very, very structured program, but it really is this concept of how do we welcome people back into the workforce. So I would say no matter what the size of the business, just about every business can participate. I would say in terms of what it officially is, there's less structure there. It really is just more how you make space and make room, whether it's for a mentorship, whether it's for an internship, whether it's for a part-time, whatever it may be. It's just how do you offer that opportunity for those looking to re-enter the labor force. And I think a lot of businesses will be surprised once they start offering this, just how many people are looking for those kinds of opportunities.
Absolutely. This fits so many different scenarios. We could sit here all day and list possible situations we all know someone in looking to get back into work, but maybe feeling like that opportunity has passed them by. They've been out so long. This is a direct challenge to that. Return Utah is the name of the program. inutah.org, the website where you can see the programs, apply for the existing programs, even inquire about creating your own returnship program to bring employees into your business and more. All the different reasons a person might have been out. Been a joke actually recently on our show from a lawmaker, an elected official in the Utah legislature, guest on our show said, I've been doing this for so long, I think I might take advantage of this program and get myself back into a more productive career. It literally does apply to everyone, and I hope people will check it out. Thanks to all of our listeners who sent questions in to give us the idea for this segment today. And again, the website inutah.org is where you want to start, whether you're a business owner or an individual looking for information on the Returnship Program. It is all there at inutah.org. Our guest again has been Ben Hart, Deputy Director of the Governor's Office of Economic Opportunity. And Ben, appreciate taking some time for KVNU today.
Thank you so much. I appreciate the opportunity.
Great stuff, and a pleasure to be able to talk about it here on the show. For listeners, again, as Ben and I have discussed here, this not only doesn't happen in every other state, Utah is the first to attempt something like this, and it is a pretty amazing idea. I mean, such a simple idea, but yet a game changer. The people who have left the workforce to raise a child, care for an aging parent, Maybe they suffered an injury. I know one individual who went through years of back surgeries and more and couldn't work. And many of these people now feeling that the workforce has left them behind. Maybe the skills they had at one time, they don't feel apply anymore. This program is there to change that, to get people connected with training opportunities, educational opportunities, and more through colleges throughout Utah, and get back into the workforce, whether you left the workforce to raise a family at one point, or whether you, another example I just thought of, a friend of mine actually who had an he went and started a business, and it didn't work. I mean, it happens, right? So it didn't work. After about 7 years, he decided, the business was making money and everything, but it was just not going to go where he wanted it to go, and was no longer what he wanted to do. But he'd been out for 7 years. His skills when it came to everything from office equipment to the programming that he specialized in, he was out of date. And felt that he was never going to be able to find work in his field at that point after that 7-year experiment with running a business of his own. And this program, he's actually a part of it now already. He has submitted an application and is undergoing some up-training when it comes to building various software devices. So that's an example, and it is available to anyone. Applications for programs that exist available at inutah.org, has been mentioned. There are also opportunities for businesses to get involved, and they're encouraging businesses to do so. If you have something to offer as far as getting someone back into the workforce, you can also apply yourself or as your business at the website inutah.org. Again, thanks to Ben. Thanks to the Lieutenant Governor for sending some information along as well. And check it out, the Returnship Program, a back-to-work program here in the state of Utah, running through the Governor's Office of Economic Opportunity and the Department of Workforce Services, teaming up with colleges and universities throughout the state. All of that can be found at inutah.org, and we'll be back with more of For the People right after this.
Welcome to Everyone's Metal Store, home to tons of metal products for the DIYer or experienced pros. With a sales staff ready to assist with any type of metal question, Palmer's Metal Mart in Logan is your metal store, no matter the size of your project. With one of the state's best selections of metal products under one roof, you will love the price and selection at Metal Mart. For almost 30 years, for projects big or small, customers have found their home for metal products and extraordinary service to be at Metal Mart. No matter your knowledge of metal products, Metal Mart is here to serve. Give us a call or come into our store in Logan and see why we're everyone's metal store. If you need metal roofing, tubing or pipe, sheet metal, angle iron, purlins or rebar, call Palmer's Metal Mart today. When it comes to metal, just remember Palmer's Metal Mart, everyone's metal store. It's that simple. Visit us online at palmersmetalmart.com or in Logan, just east of the airport. Steel, service, and savings. See you soon.
Hi, this is Brent Wallace with Cache Valley Bank. We love supporting local events like the Cache Valley Parade of Homes happening September 30th through October 9th. As you tour these beautiful homes, we invite you to visit our recently renovated Cache Valley Bank branches. Show your parade ticket and receive a complimentary sampler box of Bluebird chocolates. Visit one of our 7 locations from Smithfield to Hiram, including our mortgage office. Stop by during the Parade of Homes, meet our staff, and pick up your free chocolates. Cache Valley Bank, member FDIC.
Welcome back to KVNU's For the People. Speaking of the workforce, for those just tuning in, we spoke just now with Ben Hart, Deputy Director of the Governor's Office of Economic Opportunity, about a program championed and basically invented by the Lieutenant Governor, Deidre Henderson, and is called the Returnship Program, a back-to-work program here in Utah, connecting individuals and businesses with colleges and universities to get people who left the workforce for whatever reason and have been out more than a couple of years back into the workforce. It's an exciting thing. Utah's the first state to really experiment with this, and we'll see how it goes. Inutah.org, again, the website, if you're an individual or a business looking to become a part of this program, you can do so there through some simple online applications. And that got me thinking about the workforce and an article I recently read by the McKinsey Group. This is basically a big business data analytics and analysis group, a bunch of consultants. They hire themselves out, but they also publish some great stuff online from their research. And post-pandemic, which, I mean, what does that even mean right now, considering here in Utah the pandemic is back, and Idaho as well. Idaho rationing health care. Utah worried we're on the doorstep of having to do the same. The pandemic far from over, so a lot of these post-pandemic articles might be out of date already at this point, but still an interesting look from the McKinsey Group at how the COVID-19 pandemic has changed work and changed the workforce, and why something like this returnship program here in Utah might be a bigger deal than probably even the lieutenant governor and the governor's office of economic opportunity realize that it is, as far as putting people back into the workforce. One of the things we know about the workforce in the United States during the pandemic is that millions of people left the workforce and haven't come back yet. The assumption, based on some pretty significant data, though no conclusive data at this point exists, there is significant data to suggest that a good chunk of the millions that left the workforce and haven't come back yet are people who did so because of a lack of childcare options. Basically, they were raising a family. Maybe they had daycare, and then the pandemic comes along. Daycare's shut down. Somebody has to be home. Or perhaps the child's school, like Mountain Crest here in Cache Valley, just this week announced that cases of COVID-19 Delta variant, the spread was so high that they're having to go onto the test to stay program. That is basically everybody has to test or not come to school. And back in the spring of 2020, schools just shut down. Everyone was remote learning, and it wasn't working well. Probably because it was a big surprise. Nobody was really prepared for it. Teachers literally had 4 days to get everything online. I think everyone did a great job, including students. But one thing we learned is that remote learning doesn't work as well as in-person learning, and we now have a lot of kids who have fallen behind. So we don't want schools to close, but at the same time, we can't just ignore the current rate of spread of the Delta variant through schools here in Utah. Legislative debate has kind of hindered that. Lawmakers don't want to admit they made a mistake with the mask mandate ban bill back in the spring, and so we're kind of stuck in limbo at this point. We'll see what comes of that. A special session is being rumored, but not until October 4th. All that considered, you have this situation where a lot of parents, or one parent in a household at least, suddenly someone needs to be at home. The kids are home remote learning, and maybe for months, or maybe you just have no childcare options anymore because most of them closed. Some of them, a lot of them, went out of business. Maybe you just couldn't afford childcare. It was cheaper to have someone stop working than to be paying for childcare every day. A lot of different things. Either way, the data suggests that that's where a large number, maybe even a majority of the people who have left the workforce have left the workforce too, caring for a child. So McKinsey says what they've noticed is, with that data in consideration, they've noticed that the pandemic has also accelerated existing trends in remote work, e-commerce, and even some automation, though remote work seems to be the biggest trend that COVID-19 has kicked into high gear. It's assumed at this point somewhere upwards of 25% of United States workers, 25% more than 2019's numbers, are either working remotely or working in person and looking at switching occupations. And McKinsey said that's a big deal, one we should all be paying attention to, whether you're an employer or an employee or a state workforce analyst. That data alone suggests the workforce is completely different. Check it out. I've linked to it on our Facebook page, and we'll be back with more of For the People after the news with KVNU's Bill Walter.
Thank you, Jason. KVNU News Time is 5:34, and the news is brought to you by the Duck Hunter. Reports of a power outage in Smithfield this afternoon and parts of northern Cache Valley. Apparently, it's because of some damaged equipment. That's the only word that we got, just kind of limited information from Rocky Mountain Power on their website, but it is affecting about over 1,980 customers, so they do know about it. So hopefully lights will be back on soon once that equipment is replaced. Also, firefighters have been on the scene of a small grass fire along US 91 north of Crow Mountain between Smithfield and Richmond. Traffic at last report was being partially blocked while crews work on that fire. No injuries or buildings were in the line of that wildfire. A 73-year-old Providence man is being bound over for trial on charges that he allegedly stole thousands of dollars from his family during the past 10 years. Lynn Thurston is charged with taking the money from multiple trust funds intended for his grandchildren. Thurston appeared in First District Court for a preliminary hearing yesterday afternoon. He was previously charged with 22 felony counts of unlawful dealing with property by a fiduciary and 1 count of money laundering. During the more than 2 hours of testimony, prosecutors presented boxes of printed financial documents alleging it showed Thurston illegally transferred money from his grandchildren's savings and trust accounts. The money was then withdrawn in cash or used for personal purchases like a new truck. Thurston's ex-wife testified about how the suspect handled all of the finances, and she didn't know about the money transfers until divorce attorneys were going through the couple's records. The couple cared and adopted the grandchildren after a car crash in Sardine Canyon killed the children's parents. Defense attorney Shannon Demler said his client did nothing wrong. He claimed the money was withdrawn to help the couple care for the children, including purchasing a vehicle for the granddaughter and paying for orthodontic work for both kids. Cache County Deputy Attorney Jacob Gordon explained that Thurston withdrew about $350,000 during the past 10 years. He said Demler's claim that the money was used for the children's living expenses was ridiculous, noting it did not come close to the amount of money taken. Judge Brandon Maynard ruled that prosecutors had presented sufficient evidence to bind Thurston over on all 23 charges. He ordered the defendant to appear again in court October 12th. Thurston pleaded not guilty to the charges. He's currently out of jail after posting $30,000 bond. And another northern Utah resident was included among the 23 new COVID-19 deaths reported by the Utah Department of Health today. A Box Elder County man between 65 and 84 years of age is the 132nd death in Cache, Box Elder, and Rich counties. During the 19 months of the pandemic, 2,829 Utahns have lost their lives to the virus. More than 1,300 new positive cases were part of the Utah Department of Health report, and 22% of them were school-aged children. Also, 172 positive cases were reported from Cache, Box Elder, and Rich counties. KVNU News Time is 5:38.
Believe it or not, a high-quality furnace air filter will reduce the amount of dust and pollen carelessly floating around in your home. John at the Duck Hunter says always buy a higher quality air filter. If you can see through a filter, you probably should pass on it. If you're not sure about which furnace air filter to buy, give John a call. He only carries the highest quality, which will reduce the dust and pollen in your home. For a free consultation, call the Duck Hunter at 770-4813.
We are the Duck Hunter. Breathe better, save money, protect your home. We are the Duck Hunter.
KVNU weather for tonight, mostly clear skies, overnight low in the lower 40s, sunny and warmer, around 77 tomorrow, around 78 on Thursday. It's been to 69. It's 69 right now at KVNU. KVNU weather brought to you by Northern Steel Buildings. Contact their Cache Valley team to protect what's yours at northernsteelbuilding.com. Value from concept to construction. Call 435-677-7300. For more details on these and other stories, visit cachevalleydaily.com.
NMLS 1817019.
Lendrite Mortgage declares freedom from high rates and closing costs with the introduction of our Freedom Loan. What is a Freedom Loan? 1, you pay 0 closing costs. 2, you get a rate that's the same or lower than the rate other lenders charge you thousands in points and fees to get. The choice is clear. Pay thousands more than you should with another lender, or get the same or lower rate and have the Freedom Loan cover 100% of your closing costs. Act now. Freedom Loan APRs are as low as 1.92% for 8 to 15-year terms and 2.67% for 16 to 30-year terms. Call 801-APPROVE or visit lendritemortgage.com. Get a Freedom Loan and say no to high rates and closing costs. Call 801-APPROVE or visit lendritemortgage.com.
If you think it's expensive to hire a professional, just wait until you hire an amateur.
Why the heck is the roof leaking? Larry, you said you got it fixed.
I thought it was fixed, Donna. Everything was fine until it started raining.
Larry, that's the point of fixing the roof, is so we can actually live here when it's stormy outside.
This is David with Roof Rescue. Our experienced roofing team is tried and true and will fix your roof guaranteed. Visit roofrescueusa.com to schedule your free roof inspection. Roof Rescue, providing watertight peace of mind.
Bring back what you've been missing. Bring back Cache Valley Hearing and Audiology.
Cache Valley Hearing and Audiology is Cache Valley's most trusted name in hearing aid technology. Schedule a free consultation with Dr. Paul Danes by calling 753-HEAR or visit cachehearing.com.
Bring back what you've been missing. Bring back Cache Valley Hearing and Audiology. It's getting to the point where I know.
Welcome back to KVNU's For the People. Sticking with a few science-themed segments here on the show today. It's what I've been reading, looking for anything some days that is not political to occupy my brain on my lunchtime reads and things like that. So in hour one, we talked about the amazing science of ice cream, how complex these colloidal systems, as scientists call ice cream, are. Colloidal systems, of course, applies to many things in science, but it's basically when a solid and a liquid interact in such a way with air and temperature to perform in the way ice cream does, to be a solid. But if temperature rises and the air shrinks, it becomes a liquid. It's really actually a complex thing, and we just eat it and complain about or praise the flavor. Check it out. I've linked to the article from Scientific American on the science of ice cream on our Facebook page. But another science story that I was reading a couple of weeks ago that I guess does have not necessarily a political angle, but a public policy angle. It was an article at Science Magazine titled, "If Algae Has Not Found Its Way Onto Your Plate Yet, It Will Soon." And obviously, I'm going to click on a link that says that, right? So the article begins talking about algae in general. Algae is found, and it found every time when looked for in sushi, most salad dressings, ice cream, back to our topic of hour one, and a lot of different candies. Probably comes as a surprise to you, right? But certain kinds of algae that you would probably recognize as seaweed can be found in all of these as an essential ingredient, actually. It's not something that accidentally fell in at the manufacturing or bottling plant. This is actually part of what makes ranch dressing flavor what it is. It has an element of seaweed, which is an algae in it. Algae actually shows up in dishes and different ingredients a lot more than I realized, and that would probably gross most of us out. But what's interesting to me is there's a reason for this. And also, I mean, this should be, I guess, the primary thing that we all consider when it comes to algae in our food. It's actually nutritious. Algae has a lot of vitamins A, B, and C. It's usually rich in calcium, magnesium, iron, phosphorus, potassium, and iodine. But that isn't why it makes its way into our food. It makes its way into our food most often because of, and by the way, scientists believe algae might actually have some additional health benefits in the form of antioxidants, antivirals, antihypertensive compounds, and things like that. But again, back to why it makes its way into our food, it really isn't a decision by any culinary expert or recipe inventor to say, well, algae has a lot of these good qualities and vitamins and potential other health benefits. Let's throw some algae in that salad dressing, or throw some algae in that ice cream. Or no, it's actually either a conscious decision for some element of the recipe that brings the algae along with it for flavor, or in some cases it's actually a decision to include certain types of especially marine macroalgae, seaweed, for flavor. But we don't think of seaweed as algae. And I guarantee you're never going to see that listed on a menu listing, the ingredients of a certain menu item. It's going to say seaweed, if anything. It's not going to say algae, but seaweed is an algae. It's really prominent in Japanese cuisine. Makes sense. A lot of sushi and actually some algae-centered dishes. Algae in Japan, a very popular thing right now is to make nori from algae. And that is common. And on the menus there, as I understand it from a friend who visited, they actually say that outright because it's a popular thing. Most rolled types of sushi include a strip of something that is basically an algae. It's a form of seaweed, boiled seaweed. And it also ends up in a lot of omelets, restaurant dishes like that. There are an insane number of different types of algae. I won't get into that. But so where things got interesting for me in this article, the United Nations Food and Agricultural Organization actually put seaweed into production to the tune of about 36 million wet tons in 2019 as part of their global anti-hunger campaign. The United Nations, through this Food and Agricultural Organization, they do amazing work to actually supply food. Now, this can be after an event like a natural disaster, but it can also just be food that goes into countries that are continuously impoverished, where people are starving due to summer droughts sometimes that come along. And so to supply enough food, they've had to get creative. And this is one of the ways that they did it. And again, in 2019, they actually grew 36 million wet tons of seaweed because, again, it's nutritious. It's good for you. It's used as a filler and a flavor additive in many different dishes. But where this got interesting is that 36 million wet tons, that is about 1,000 times more than what was being used in hunger programs and in just general eating in places like America since the 1950s. And so the implication there basically is that we're eating a lot of algae these days on purpose. It's being put in dishes on purpose. Again, if someone walks up to you and says, hey, there's algae in that, you would assume that something fell off of a shelf into the mixing bowl, right? Or splashed from the floor into the mixing bowl. But no, these for flavor purposes, for texture purposes, and occasionally for health purposes, but less often than flavor and texture, algae in the form of seaweed is actually more common than you would ever guess. Furthering on their work growing algae for anti-hunger campaigns, the UN Global Impact Program actually published in 2020 a report called The Seaweed Revolution. And this has been billed by those who have read it, scientists who have read it as a, quote, manifesto for a sustainable future. In that report, the UN researchers detailed these internationally agreed upon standards for growing seaweed, but also talk a lot and show a lot of scientific evidence for countries investing in efforts to collaborate and grow algae. The There are a lot of different ways to grow it. As I mentioned, there are thousands of different types of algae. And what they're finding is that it is a great nutritional supplement, especially in programs where the goal is to get quick sustenance to areas where people are starving. All this implies basically that attitudes towards algae, at least in the scientific community, have shifted. The next challenge, scientists write in this article, researchers need to deal with the fact that how are you going to tell people? How are you going to explain to people? How are you going to list that on the restaurant menu that, hey, algae, yeah, it's in there. It's not just a natural food that you might find at a Whole Foods type or Nature's Grocers type store. The challenge laid out in this Scientific Magazine article, if you don't believe it, go to the grocery store and check closely on some of the items that are listed in the story and that I've mentioned here talking about the story, and look at the ingredients. You'll never see it listed as algae. You'll see it listed as seaweed, or occasionally they'll really, really take liberties and call it a water-grown filler, but it's algae. And at the average supermarket, the article says, you'll find more than 1,500 products with some form of seaweed contained, either intentionally for health purposes, intentionally for flavor and texture purposes, or intentionally because it was a far cheaper option than a comparable ingredient to make their product. But never will you see algae or seaweed listed in the ingredients by accident. We just haven't noticed. It's a really cool thing. Check it out. There are also some great descriptions in the story of how seaweed is grown outside of where it grows naturally. And that has actually been a big boon to fisheries throughout the United States as well, helping to keep the water clean. So a win-win. It's cool stuff and cool science. Check it out. I've linked to the story from Scientific Magazine titled, again, You Have Probably Eaten Algae Without Realizing It. In fact, we guarantee you have. Link on the Facebook page. We'll be back right after this.
At Wheatland Seed, we believe in providing our customers real food for a better life. Foods that are powerfully nutritious and that connect you to the natural world. Foods that give you peace of mind, knowing they were grown by family farmers, most in northern Utah and Idaho. Knowing your food storage is carefully packed with a resealable Mylar liner, providing a shelf life up to 25 years. And knowing your foods have been lab tested to verify they are pure and chemical-free. At Wheatland Seed, we love what we do, serving our customers real food for a better life. Our fall stock-up sale is going on now. For best prices, order online with store pickup at wheatlandseed.com. That's wheatlandseed.com.
Adams Wealth Advisors is the gold winner for financial planning in the Best of Northern Utah competition. Thank you for your vote. Putting clients first under any circumstance will bring peace of mind when working with Adams Wealth Advisors.
This is Craig Adams. At Adams Wealth Advisors, we are here to help you receive peace of mind whether you've done a lot of planning or a little planning. Count on our team at Adams Wealth Advisors for honesty, professionalism, and integrity.
Visit adamswealthadvisors.com or call 752-1702 to schedule a time with an advisor today. Please see adamswealthadvisors.com for more information on these recent awards.
I'm Larry Gelwicks, the getaway guru with Columbus Travel and Funjet Vacations. Run away to the sunny beaches of Cancun, all-inclusive. White sand beaches, blue ocean waters, gourmet dining, and non-stop fun, including your air, hotel, meals, drinks, even your tips and gratuities, all for just one low price. For the best travel deals on the planet, including all-inclusive Cancun, call Columbus Travel, 800-373-3328, or online at columbusvacations.com. Thanks, Columbus.
Even though the weather's grown colder, you still have time to have your fruit trees pruned.
Logan Extermination says your trees need to be trimmed back in order to achieve success next year. And this is the first step to a bountiful harvest. However, you could do more bad than good if you don't know what you're doing. Save the headache and call Logan Extermination today and get a jump on tree pruning. Prices will vary depending on your needs. Logan Extermination, 752-8450.
Hey, it's Al Lewis. We all know buttons make our lives easier. But if you have sleep apnea and can't use CPAP, did you know there's a button that can help you go from this to this? It's called Inspire. It's a small device that works inside your body with just the click of a remote. That's right, a button. If you struggle with CPAP, great sleep awaits at InspireSleep.com. Inspire. Sleep apnea innovation. No mask, no hose, just sleep. Inspire is not for everyone. Talk to your doctor to see if it's right for you. And review important safety information at InspireSleep.com.
Wednesday edition Clay Travis and Buck Sexton show will break down Biden at the UN. Also, the latest on the COVID mess. Where is the hospitalization data, and can we trust it? Plus, Buck.
The border's still a mess. Biden has Mayorkas telling the American people as head of DHS he's going to get to the bottom of it and take care of the problem. Can we trust him? That and more coming up on the Clay Travis and Buck Sexton show.
10 to 1 on News Talk KVNU, 102 FM at 610 AM.
Welcome back to KVNU's For the People. Wrapping things up with not necessarily a breaking story, but a report from Fox 13 News on something that has been kind of slowly happening throughout the day. It started with a statement from the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, then has been followed by statements from or requests from news media for a comment and responses from these organizations, from the Catholic Diocese of Salt Lake City to the, as I mentioned already, the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints is starting this with their own statement earlier today. The question was, in the vaccine mandate issued by President Biden via executive order, which is still, as I understand, a couple weeks away from actually being available to read or enforced, but that language will eventually be out, and then we'll know for sure. But the administration has said, here's what's in it, basically. And our understanding is this mandate, it's not really a mandate in that it basically said, well, it's a mandate for federal employees and contractors. Absolutely. That is basically, if you're a federal employee or a contractor, you will be vaccinated or have a medical exemption reason to do so, or a religious exemption reason to not be vaccinated. When it comes to everyone else and businesses with 100 employees or more, they have a choice. They can either they can test employees and on a daily basis or a weekly basis, I think it was, or they can vaccinate all their employees and get all their employees to do so voluntarily through basically saying, if you want to work here, you've got to be vaccinated. This is, of course, going to be controversial, and there are going to be lawsuits and all of that. But there was, in this executive order, one thing we also know is there is this religious exemption. And so people got curious and said, would that, if you had an anti-vax person in, say, Utah, claim that because they're a member of the, say, Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, would they then have standing to say there's a religious exemption? Well, the dominant faith here in Utah put out a statement in response to these questions this morning and said no. In fact, a spokesperson for the church confirmed the stance with Fox 13 News this afternoon and referred to the church handbook, which declares that vaccinations administered by a, quote, competent medical professional protect health and preserve life. Members of the church are encouraged to safeguard themselves, their children, and their communities through vaccination. Church spokesperson said that the church would not be granting a single religious exemption to vaccination. Then, of course, the news media started digging, asking other large religious organizations in Utah, and no, so far they have not found one that said they would grant a religious exemption to vaccination here in Utah. That includes the Utah Islamic Society for the Greater Salt Lake area, Salt Lake Catholic Diocese, the Episcopal Diocese of Utah, statewide church, and several others. Check it out. I've linked to the story on our Facebook page. Tomorrow on the show, Logan City Police Chief Gary Jensen joins us for our Speak to the Mayor segment. Mayor Dane's a candidate for re-election this cycle, so she's stepping out until the election takes place, and in her place, sending various people from the city down for this monthly segment. Tomorrow, Logan City Police Chief Gary Jensen sits down, and we'll talk all things cop. That's coming up tomorrow on For the People. Dave Ramsey is next here on KVNU Logan.
KVNU Logan.